If you're more than just a casual moviegoer, you start to notice certain patterns. It could be a generic story, a certain hackneyed trope, or a particular cinematography technique. But sometimes it's more than just the same technique. Sometimes it's the same audio file over and over again. Whether you realized it or not, you've probably heard certain sounds that are just in every movie. It can be done well, but sometimes it's just so brazen that it just stretches your suspension of disbelief and derails the entire experience. Where do these sounds come from, though? Is there this mix CD out there that sound designers get when they graduate film school with their diploma? Today I'm going to be looking at a couple of these sounds, and appropriately enough for Spooky Month, they are both screams. The Wilhelm Scream is perhaps the most famously overused sound effect in the biz. It's been used for decades, and it doesn't seem to be going anywhere anytime soon. It's mostly used in action scenes, and it typically seems to prey on your red shirt type of character, some peripheral side character who dies an inconsequential death. Perhaps our hero kicks some no-name henchman off a bridge, and we see a brief flash of them being flung to their certain doom, before quickly refocusing on the next disposable bad guy that our hero needs to face. Or perhaps we have two giant opposing armies advancing on each other, getting ready to stab, murder, and bludgeon. One of these characters will deliver a Wilhelm scream, and then the camera will just hurry away, never to be seen again. The particulars can be mixed and matched, but more often than not, the Wilhelm is used when a background character just dies an unimportant death in the midst of pandemonium. So where did it come from? The first time this sound was played was during a little western film called Distant Drums in 1951. The actor pulled under the water to an alligatory death was actually called in to do some post-production recordings. They wanted him to record some screams that would be put over the original scene. He gave 6 howls in that recording session, and number 5 is the one you just heard. The direction he was given for that was simply, "Hey man, give me something that's a man gets bitten by an alligator and then he screams." I mean, I guess he nailed it. For a while, it wasn't known exactly who did the Wilhelm scream. But decades later, the actor that most people think it was actually Sheb Wooley, who, small world, actually wrote and performed a song you may have heard of.
It was a one-eyed, one-horned, flying purple people eater, one-eyed, one-horned, flying purple people eater, one-eyed, one-horned, flying purple people eater. Sure looks strange to me, I heard him say in a voice so gruff, "I wouldn't see guys wearing so tough."
I mean, if that's not a creature that's gonna make you scream like that, I don't know what will. But hold up. Sheb Wooley's character in that movie wasn't named Wilhelm, so what gives with the name? Well, after that sound was recorded, it became part of Warner Brothers' library of sound assets. And that is when it started being reused. One of the first times that it started to stand out to people was in a film called Charge at Feather River, 1953. An idiot cowboy named Wilhelm gets hit in the thigh with an arrow, and it's kind of hilarious.
Wilhelm! Yeah, I'll just fill my pipe.
Dork. A generation of filmmakers and sound designers started to kind of make the sound an inside joke, and decades later, they're still laughing. The Howie Scream is on par with the Wilhelm Scream, but it's a lot less well known. I kind of see the Howie Scream as the polar opposite of the Wilhelm. While the Wilhelm is used to show an unimportant character's death and dismemberment, the Howie Scream tends to show the death of a very important character. When the Howie Scream happens, it's an event, and you're ostensibly supposed to feel the epicness of the moment. Most often, it's the gut-wrenching scream that an important character gives out as they're flung to their death off a 30-million-foot cliff. You usually don't even see the impact. You're just meant to feel the heartbreak of their demise. That is, you would feel something if it wasn't an utterly ridiculous sound. The Howie Scream gets its name from actor Howie Long, for its use in his character's death in the movie Broken Arrow. But the first time the Howie Scream was used was 16 years before that movie, in a little film called The Ninth Configuration. In that movie, Steven Sandor's character is in a knockdown, drag-out fight to the death in a bar, presumably because he didn't tip or something. A bloodied Steve whips out a knife, snarls, and then lunges at his victim, letting out the first gut-wrenching scream of its kind. Over the next few decades, the Howie Scream would be used in various different movies, video games, and TV shows, and it's still relatively popular today. My favorite use of the Howie Scream is probably in Medallion. This was, at best, a lukewarmly received film with Jackie Chan in 2003. It is objectively a bad movie, with 17% on Rotten Tomatoes. But it will also always hold a special place in my heart. I saw it as a young lad, and along with Shanghai Noon and Shanghai Nights, is part of the reason why young me was obsessed with Jackie Chan. The film happens to have not one, but two uses of the Howie Scream on separate occasions, and both of them are equally unnatural and insane.
We're the same, you and I.
I mean, I guess he wasn't wrong about them being the same and all, because just a little bit later in the movie, oh, heaven help me, I still like this movie.